given a choice between the ability to set their own schedules and a 25% raise, most drivers would choose scheduling flexibility. I will close with the words of Kimmy Spice, the owner of Seattle restaurant Biscuit Bitch. I mention this because everyone should make a point to enjoy their food while they're in town, but also because I want the words Biscuit Bitch in the congressional record. In a letter to Seattle City Council in 2019, she wrote, "I am so angry right now at the way this city treats small business. Every time I turn around, I'm paying a new tax for a sign permit or an awning or a table outside, B&O tax, sugar tax, a myriad of other licenses." She concluded that this hurts her workers as well, writing, "It took me 5 years to get to the point where I could provide the benefits I do for my staff. Seattle is known for having unique small businesses, but it is this type of legislation continues to beat us down that will soon not be the case. That will be a tragic outcome for the city's cuisine, for small business, and for workers." Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. We now turn to members' questions, and I'll start by recognizing myself for 5 minutes of questions. And Mr. Myers, let me start with you, because you did something that I appreciate, which is offer a counterpoint. But I want to unpack it a little bit. You told a story, and the only thing I don't appreciate, there were a lot of anecdotes in there, so I want to get to the question of what is happening in a systemic way. So you made an argument that is intuitively appealing, which is that if a business is forced to raise the wages, they might compensate by reducing benefits. And I think you gave the example of an employer that actually, or you had somebody who said that I lost my 401k. Right. Let me start with you, but maybe Ms. Werschel, we can come back to you. Is that a systemic problem? Can we look across employers and see that a mandatory increase in the minimum wage corresponded to a decrease in other benefits?
So yes, I think there's two things. One, the point that I want to make about Seattle is that because we have a strong economy, the evidence of impact of minimum wage is going to be less here than you would see in other communities because we have Microsoft and Amazon. So for instance, if you look for an entry wage job.
Yeah, no, I get that. I come from Fairfield County, Connecticut, so I get that.
Yep.
Connecticut, we put in place a $15 minimum. I have a very specific question, which is I want to know whether your anecdote of benefits being reduced in the face of or because of an increase in wages, is that a systemic wide, you told an anecdote, so I'm just wondering,
right.
and I'll turn to anybody. I mean, if that is systemic, meaning if we imposed a federal $15 minimum wage, we should be aware of the fact that that could lead to a corresponding decrease in benefits. So my question is very specific, which is has that been true systemically in Seattle?
Yes, you are going to see a variety of responses, but that is one of the responses. Another of the responses is that you will also see a reduction in wages, and you will also see a reduction in entry-level workers. So it is not just
reduction. And when you say reduction in wages, you're talking about, I guess, hours, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
right.
so reduced hours.
So you're going to see fewer hours. So there is no single response.
Is that in fact the observable truth here in Seattle?
Yes. The University of Washington research showed that average hours went from 20 to 19 hours. So you are seeing a reduction. So you're basically seeing people end up very close to where they were. But to your point, you will see some reduction in benefits. That will not be universal. Businesses will respond in other ways as well.
Okay, let me open it up to other witnesses who might have a view. Again, I'm really interested in moving beyond the anecdote to the structural systemic question.
Yeah, and if I can add in, I really appreciate your question because many of the labor standards that we have are very new and maybe haven't been extensively studied. The city minimum wage is unique in that there was a study with the University of Washington that was just referenced that really looked at a number of different aspects of the impact of that policy. And that research was really important because the increase in Seattle was very rapid. And so it kind of was different than a lot of other minimum wage policies. I referenced a few pieces of that, but I'll just mention specifically that the average take-home pay for workers was increased by $10 per week. So on average, workers were taking more at home. I don't believe there was any evidence of a loss of benefits, of other types of benefits. And some of the other research on sick leave and paid family medical leave does show that even those provision of benefits didn't impact the provision of other benefits. So there's a lot of research in that UW study, many reports that came out of it. And I think the findings really have been summarized before Congress in multiple different settings, but over